we have transitioned. We are an opposition party. I promised that this BDP will be an informed and courageous opposition party. We'll be incisive in what we do and how we conduct ourselves. Well, the first lesson that we want to share with everybody as they watch us is that whether in government or not, as we now are not in government, we remain democratic, we remain open, we remain tolerant. I don't think there is any other party that's been as tolerant as our party, including for internal differences. So you've seen the way the campaigns have conducted themselves or have been conducted. There's been no attempt on the side of the leadership to silence anybody because it's not in our interest. We only caution, guide, and urge members to be faithful to the ideals and the values of the party. That we will not cease to do. So that's the first point that distinguishes us. We are free, open, tolerant. The other is that we are deeply committed to the rule of law. We are deeply committed to the rule of law. And so, in any instance where any citizen, including our members, and when I say our members, I mean every single member, irrespective of rank in the party or rank in society, is subject to the dictates of the law. And I say this because some of you may have been wondering what the take of the BDP leadership is on the much talked about forensic audit that has begun. We welcome it. We welcome it with open arms. We look forward to it being what it is said to be, an objective determination of any wrongdoing by whosoever against the finances of this republic. And we urge everybody to cooperate. This is our commitment to the rule of law, because nobody has ever been allowed, even under the 58 years of rule by the BDP, to take away public finances unduly and keep them for their self-use. That is wrong. It's a breach of our laws and our values. We are deeply committed to that. But we are deeply committed to making sure that anybody who has done wrong is brought to book. We would have wished that the commitment to the rule of law, including good governance, will extend even to the latest time. We, where we stand, are deeply concerned about what we warned the voting public and the rest of the country about as we campaigned towards the 2024 elections. We know the UDC and its habits. We know their associates. We know when you give them the mandate to rule, there will be payback time to their financiers. One very well-known financier, Yabone, from 2019, I think it was, is a gentleman called Mr. Moti, a South African billionaire. He supported them. We have it on good authority, and this is all I'm prepared to say for now, that a contract has been signed with companies that he owns or is associated with. Huge amounts of money. We doubt the credibility or integrity of the procurement, but we also know that something was being searched for to pay back, particularly when a lot of noise was created about the integrity of the process of appointment of the development managers or even the value of their works, which we welcome in the event that there's any doubt. They are subject to review. They could be reviewed. because we followed the law to the letter when those development managers were appointed, and we apportioned the budget allocation for the works that they are to render, a great majority of whom are citizens of this country. So our first signaling of what you as journalists should be curious about is the payback that seems now to be rolling out. We had always warned the voting public that if you vote for the UDC, given its manifesto pronouncements, you are going to vote in regression for our economy, particularly in terms of the attempts we are making to ensure citizen participation in the economy, in the value chains that we're developing. The first example I'll give you is in the agricultural sector. We had instituted or imposed a limited restriction of the importation of some fresh produce, which we kept renewing for a very simple reason. We were trying to get the Botswana operations to play catch up so that they can actually be in the same league to compete. They were flat out, never had capacity to compete against their South African counterparts. And as you realized, after the limited restriction was removed, there was a lot of joy and celebration in South Africa from the highest corridors of power in South Africa, which any Botswana should have seen as a taunting and a ridiculing of our actions. There was celebration and jubilation in Zambia, and the farmers in Zambia, which any Botswana farmer, any citizen should have seen as a ridiculing of the decisions that we took. And I'll leave it to you to go and find out, because we laid the claim to you that we had developed productive capacity, we had developed investment by citizens, we had enabled through our programmatic actions as a government, Botswana to grow our fresh produce. And we were making remarkable progress. And in our manifesto promise, we had promised to enhance this even more and get into the distribution value chain, including processing sectors. And we have regressed by this terrible decision, uninformed. There were allegations that we made decisions in a rush, completely untrue. We consulted deeply, we informed ourselves and got advice from experts, and the numbers and figures speak for themselves in terms of we arriving at a decision, what to restrict and what not to restrict. The other example in value chains development, and which was to capacity to economy, where we are at variance with the current government, is in the mineral sector. We had the most progressive mineral development policies and actions, particularly to do with diamonds. And I will tell you for what it's worth, we negotiated the best partnership deal ever globally to do with a multinational and a country when we negotiate with De Beers. Negotiations are hard, they're not easy things. And so from the lap of luxury where they sat, not knowing too much about negotiations, know what we were doing, a lot of assault was directed at us by opposition parties then, when we interacted with De Beers. But nonetheless, we arrived at an agreement. We actually had agreed with De Beers to a formula which would result in, after 10 years, where there's annual growth of allocation of all diamonds mined in all the Botswana mines shared between De Beers and the Botswana government, wherein after 10 years, from the time of the agreement, we would be sharing that allocation 50%, 50%. Unprecedented. I ask you now to ask the UDC government, help me ask them to declare publicly what concessions did they make. That was a signed agreement. We had signed it. It was a living, valid agreement. The only thing that had been outstanding, which we also asked you to help us ask the UDC government, was the one of tax. Because the De Beers, when we talked to them, were willing to sign the heads of terms of agreement, but not willing to sign the master agreement until they brought in what we thought was an exogenous issue, tax. It was not party to or material to the negotiations, but they deliberately made it a party to the negotiations. And so they said they're going to refuse to sign until the tax issue is settled. But they wanted a political settlement of the tax issue, something we never do. So we refused. My government refused to yield to De Beers' pressure. And my guess is as good as yours in the calculation of the refusal to sign and the timing of it. And what we saw as the apparent outspending or by the UDC of ourselves by a factor of more than 1 to 15, 1 to 20, it's not hard to imagine where the financing may have come from. And I say this with a deep sense of seriousness because I want to dare De Beers to go and deny that they have been interfering in Botswana politics, including the use of finance. They started within my own party when they financed the so-called Schlemmer report. That Schlemmer report was window-dressed, sugar-coated to be as if it were a BDP project. It was not. It was fundamentally a De Beers project and the greatest beneficiary who then ascended to the leadership of the BDP. That was their project. So they can't deny it. They can't deny the fact that they secretly then had financed the retirement of a former president, which then became public, unfortunately. And I bet you it's only a matter of time before it becomes public how they managed to finance the change of government because of an injury they felt at the negotiating table when we beat them hands down. I challenge that. And I challenge the UDC government to come out clean and tell us what price did they pay by watering down a brilliant agreement that we had with De Beers. 2, we must also get to calculate the real cost, the true cost, the opportunity cost of the sacrifice that was made to the expense of Botswana, at the expense of Botswana, in terms of potential lost revenue. But we warned you about this, for there is no genuine intentions on the part of those who are harping criticism at us when they don't know what's in the frying pan to do with negotiations. They don't know why we had never challenged this agreement in the past. And I did say, and I meant it genuinely, I was prepared, if it took that, to lose elections on the basis of our firm belief in what our country deserved from the provenance that we had, those things that were deposited in our country as natural resources. And by the way, De Beers would still walk away quite handsomely, because the other thing that I want you to challenge sharply, help us ask, and it explains why I say this agreement we had was brilliant. We reconfigured the internal dynamics of the agreement, because the previous agreement deliberately, by agreement, disallowed us as a country from participating in value addition of our diamonds. And we were only earning maximum 15% of the net value of our natural resources, while our partner De Beers was earning 85% of the value because of value addition. The agreement we agreed to with De Beers, that it would seem has now been adulterated, enabled us for the very first time in history as a country to participate in value addition. I leave it to you. Calculate the opportunity cost. What have we lost in potential income because of the new agreement? And, you know, for all intents and purposes, let's ask the UDC government to come out clean and declare publicly the criterial attributes of the agreement that they say they've settled for with De Beers. I am informed, and I hazard to say it may not be as accurate as the UDC government might know, because I'm not in government, that one of the concessions they made was for the allocation formula to change from 50-50 after 10 years to 60-40 in favor of De Beers. The others I am uninformed about, but we demand to be informed. These are national resources that affect every single one of us. They must tell us if the 10 billion pula, which amounted to 1 billion pula annually, directly from De Beers coffers to the Botswana government or the Republic, to be co-managed in a fund we call the Diamond for Development Fund, which were a result of negotiations, is still there or not? And what do you intend to do with the resources, these resources? And so I want to put it to you that this is the kind of party that we still are. We're very sharp and focused, laser focused on the protection of the interests of the citizens of this country. And I want to urge the incoming leadership of the BDP to not steer away from these ideals and remain sharply focused on things that matter for this republic, because we were driven even to the point of being mission-oriented to make this country a high-income country well before 2036. Publicly, we pronounced 2036 as our target, but internally, we were convinced we were on course to take it there before 2036. The other sharp difference is the rebuke we enjoyed at the hands of the UDC and others, including BCP and AP and BMD and BPF and all the other Bs and Fs and Zs and RPAP or RDF, whatever they're called, electric mobility. We were rebuked. We got into a brilliant agreement yet again with a Chinese firm for a 10-year exclusive agreement to produce those vehicles, name them, and agreed also, because we're committed to value chain development, including value addition, to add any components that we developed in Botswana, in country, to the model of the vehicle. And once we hit the threshold of 30% is required by SACU agreement, we would be able to export those throughout SACU and beyond SADC, ili exclusive rights. Let me just give a bit of technical detail. The most expensive component of those vehicles is the battery. The battery lasts 10 years. And right now, it's about a third of the cost of the vehicle. And we're convinced through R&D, and we've seen this evidence over time, the cost not only of the vehicle, but also of the battery would reduce over 10 years. So by the time this battery died on the 8th or 10th year, it would not, in our view, cost 1/3 of the vehicle. And it would still be economically viable. For all the right reasons, environmental sustainability being one, and local production being another, and therefore savings in foreign exchange. We manage our electricity we manage our electricity. We have a plant that is problematic. We all knew that it was problematic from the word go, Morupule B, but we managed our sick plant very intelligently, wherein we maintained 1 unit of the 4 at a time. They managed to make the error, as it would seem has happened recently, of maintaining 2 at one time over every 11 months. You run the risk, even though you're running 2, because the sick plant of one or the other giving in, like we've had recently. And when one plant gives in, you're down to when 1 unit gives in, you're down to 1 unit. And when 1 unit generates electricity, we are subject to the vagaries of power cuts, including water cuts, because water pumping is reliant on electricity, consistent electricity supply. We managed this by managing the finances delicately of BPC, where we subsidize BPC by more than R1 billion pool annually. And we have a robust integrated resource plan to get ourselves out of this rut of over-reliance on Morupule B, which is an alien plant, by developing other sources of power. With our research was very advanced in wind energy production, but we were actually rolling out solar power plant rooftop, including power stations being rolled out, Kumadinare, the small ones in Okavango, Gubira, Juaning, at 50 now to 100 megawatts, and then developing another thermal station with a mine, Kumamabula. These were intended to mitigate and alter the composition of our generation of power. We'd want to urge the incoming leadership of the BDP to remain laser focused on the question of energy and ensure that we are always steps ahead of our peers. And for the first time under my administration, we at off-peak hours on a non-firm contract basis were able to export power to the region. It had never happened before because we were on point with regard to generation of electricity. I want to add that beyond these measures, we've done everything to try and diversify our economy. But you don't diversify economy at the flash of a, flashlight or drop of a pin. We had 2.5 years of COVID, which really delayed us. And I want to commend the UDC government through its vice president, because I heard for the first time recently when they actually positively acknowledged the challenges that we face as a country, COVID-19, when the economy literally shut down. And that's when we experienced serious financial crisis. That which is talked about today is nothing compared to what we faced during the time of COVID-19, when the ruling party now was at pains to explain to the world that COVID-19 did not exist at all. They were at pains to say that COVID-19 did not exist at all. So I commend them for now acknowledging, even though indirectly, that COVID-19 existed, because they're acknowledging now through the vice president there were challenges to our economy, where we operate on a cash basis, literally. But the same is not true of any crisis, either real or imagined, that they face now. Then the easiest thing, and this is an act of immaturity, they apportion blame to my government. The previous government is responsible for gaps, problems. Let's drill down when gaps started and when the gaps problems began, and even the current solutions, when they were initiated. The success with solving some of the challenges that gaps now should fall squarely on us, this previous government of this country. But we also want to acknowledge that the new government continued with that. in the same way as they are very shy to acknowledge where the satellite program came from. Extremely shy. I had never known them to be shy, except when it came to programs such as the satellite program. When it came to electric mobility, when it came to any other success that we might enjoy, including the DM project we put in place, including our commitment to improve the livelihoods of Botswana. But not shy when it is perceived as a problem to suggest it's a previous government. I think that is immaturity. They must stop being crybabies, as I've said. They must just get up and run this country. They have a full mandate given to them by Botswana, and we support them in that mandate. But we don't support immaturity. They must run this country. Come day, come night, and they will find us a loyal opposition, as you've promised. And where's the loyalty coming from? If they want to find out anything, as we have pledged to President Boko, and they need to understand it, in the quiet of the privacy of direct engagement, they can engage any of us. I told all my colleagues to cooperate, as I too am willing to, just so that the country is not gotten into any difficulties. It's all our country. We are resolute on this as the BDP because we are well aware we are the biggest party. We are the single biggest party with the largest voting bloc, single bloc. They only beat us, crowded as they are, the 4 or 5 parties together, by 7% of the votes. Very well distributed to result in annihilation of our parliamentary existence. And so fringe parties have even found themselves to be bigger than us in parliament. But those are the challenges of first past the post. But we are the single biggest party in this country. We cannot be wished away. We have a huge voting bloc. We have a huge mass of supporters. And we are more than ready as a party to come back to government even tomorrow. If they were to trip and something went wrong or their fights got out of control, we are ready. We are the readiest party to come back to power, as we intend to in 2029 when the next general election is due. We're going to revitalize, refresh, and talk to the voting audience. I want to end by urging you in the media to be as alert as you were during my government. I don't know what happened. I honestly don't know what happened to our media, but you know best. I don't want to pretend to be prescriptive. You know yourselves better than anybody else knows you. But something happened. Something seriously wrong happened. Where your alertness, your sharpness, your curiosity, your inquisition suddenly just took the back seat. We're a country. What happened to the ideals that you stood by? What happened? What happened to questioning? But I do note, as I saw when I was handing over to President Boko, that some of you are very partisan. I saw quite a number of you dancing around President Boko's office, in and out, and, playing nice to want to have. I won't name them. Please don't force me to. But they know themselves. They were there. And then it suddenly explained to me why their articles are always so biased. Even as recently as the last 50 papers, those writers know themselves that were trying to curry favor around the office of the president, in my very presence, even not knowing the protocol of when a president talks to a president, they should not be there. Baliho, I think impressing the new boss. Now it was not for me to be impressed, it was for me to note, aha, nzana kibo neba. We invite you to the Open Democratic Congress in Mau. Work in the national interest and put on your almost juristic, journalistic goggles and play fair. We always welcome the media. It's a very important part of our democracy. Whatever you think of us, we will always support you. We will always defend you. We have, as is tradition, invited fraternal parties from the region to come and join us, discuss with us, engage with us. We've invited, now that we're an opposition party, for the first time, other opposition parties in Botswana, out of the fraternity of both sharing the same reality of being in opposition. We will see and hope they respond positively and come to our Congress. We don't hate each other. Some of us are actually related to others in opposition parties. And even the current ruling party, some of us have relatives there. We have friends there. And some have intimate partners across the party lines. Some of us are actually related to intimacy is in relationships or even marriages, and even, when I say relationships, I mean past, present, and perhaps future. I agree we live in a free country. So don't think we politicians are subhuman. We are just like you. Because across the media houses, you are in the media. So I want to end here because I don't want to hog this. So you can go and enjoy the rain. O witsepo akere go maphakela ke kofi ke dikukunyana marothonyana motho o ira moenyalo ha mo etetse. It's nothing to do with trying to influence yourselves. Thank you very much.